First of all, welcome everyone to the Human Biography podcast. Today, I've got my good friend Adrienne here from the Chicago Bulls. Welcome to the podcast. First, tell everybody what you do for the Chicago Bulls, and I'll talk about how we met. And you go for it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So thanks. Yeah, I'm Adrienne Scherenzel-Curry. I'm the Vice President for Community Engagement for the Chicago Bulls and
Yeah.
also the Executive Director for Chicago Bulls Charities.
And tell us your connection to the young people that I'm documenting for the next year. Tell me about your connection with them and your organization, how you're helping move those kids forward. Yeah.
So shout out to Cassandra, who oversees who is the Herendorf from the Herendorf Family Foundation, because she is like one of the most persistent people I've ever met, but like in a good way. She's amazing, and
Amazing.
so she got through, through to our ownership here, and they said just hop on the phone with her. She wants to do something, and so she was like thinking through like what does she want to do, this idea, and that it took them a little bit of time, not that much, and then they were just so open to listening to people in Chicago, and so what they wanted to do, they had this idea: we want to help. Everyone has a story. Everyone's like story is something that people want to hear, but also it shouldn't be sort of defined by sort of like your high school grades and things like this. And so like how can they tap into some kids that are like need a little bit of push, need a little bit of help, to get them to sort of like that next level, just to like change their trajectory, change their lives and stuff like that. And so, I mean, what they do at the foundation is really just wrap their arms around these youth, whoever the youth are that get into their program. They wrap their arms around them in so many ways to give them all these amazing experiences. And also for her, she's got a family connection to the Chicago White Sox, and the Chicago White Sox are sort of siblings to the Bulls, same ownership. So we do a lot of things together. And so when I got on the phone with them, and I was like, okay, they have this great idea. They want to listen. They want to hear. They want to see what's going on, which is great. So I was able to connect them with a few other groups in Chicago that did a lot of really good youth development work.
Her full mandate of her life is to help others, and
Yep.
that's huge. And then that's one thing, right? So that's my mandate, is to help others, but to create the relationships, the partnerships, to make
Yeah.
sure it's successful.
Mhm.
It was so impressive to see who was on board, from the Oprah Winfrey Foundation to the
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls to the White Sox.
Yeah.
And the list is always increasing, and the people that are coming on board to even talk to these incredible young people, who when I spend time with them, I'm learning from them. It's lovely and it's beautiful. And I had a great connection with you in Chicago. It was so great to connect and meet and
Yeah.
see all the work that you're doing. So tell me some of the work that you are doing in community, in Chicago and beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is my fourth season with the Chicago Bulls, and so when I started, part of the reason I think they brought me on was to help, just sort of like let's update what we've been doing. Like we've been doing a lot of things a certain way for a while. So let's kind of like think about what do we want to do. Going into this next kind of like phase for the organization. Part of the thinking was like let's think about how can we, as a team, not just do work that's performative. Because there's a lot like okay, I get it. We're a sports team. I get it, right? So people always like are thinking do something flashy, but like well, what can we do? It's maybe just like let's think about impact. Not necessarily think about sort of like this big flashy thing. And so we took some time to really kind of think about what does the city really need. And like in Chicago, it's really well known for one massive issue, which is violence in the community. It's very well known for that.
It's
But
very,
one
it's a
little
very
fact that
tough
people,
thing to tackle.
yeah, people, you're like, I'm shocked to hear this, right? Everyone kind of knows Chicago is this. It always comes up, especially when there's election time, things like that. But it's interesting to know Chicago's not even in the top 10 most dangerous cities in the United States. It's not even in the top 10. So it's what it is still an issue here. Let me just like acknowledge that, and it's something that I think definitely shapes the city and shapes how people move. It shapes opportunities that youth have. If you want to address violence, you got to look at the education system and what can you do to improve outcomes for youth. Hello, this is why I love the Herendorf Family Foundation and the work they're doing, because that's exactly what they're doing, trying to make sure that you can get youth to get better outcomes in academic outcomes, just to open up other options for them. When we think of community investment, we're thinking about the work that we do with Black-owned businesses, which a lot of research also shows that when the Black-owned businesses are doing better in the city, the violence goes down around those businesses as well. And then also thinking about like how can we be helpful with the relationships that police have with youth in the community, because it goes both ways. We want to make sure let's think about programming we're doing to make sure that's really being impactful and hopefully helping to heal a lot of those wounds that we have in the community. So that's our community investment
Wow.
sort of pillar. And then health and wellness, I always say it's not so much like get out and run and eat your vegetables. It's not that kind of thing. When we think of health and wellness, we got to think about like all of the mental health issues that we have as a city. People talk about, like, oh, everyone's got
Right.
PTSD. It's not really PTSD because it's happening. It's not post traumatic. It's happening now. Where people are traumatized and don't realize they're traumatized sometimes either, but super stressed and traumatized. So we really want to make sure we're addressing those types of issues in the city, in our youth, but also thinking about access to physical activity as well. So a lot of times, like when you're in different neighborhoods in Chicago, if you're on like the south or the west sides of Chicago, a lot of times you can't actually get outside and play at different points because it's actually dangerous. You either have like, there could be gang members, it could be just like not like a safe time of day or whatever it may be. And so we wanted to make sure that we can help with thinking about physical, like how could people access spaces to have physical activity. And then finally, with the last part, youth opportunity, it's just like, again, kind of it goes back to the Herrendorf Family Foundation, the work that they're doing. A lot of it has to do with how do you change the vision of the future for youth? Because without a vision, you have nothing. If you have nothing that you can even see yourself being, or see yourself that you want to be or something, then you have nothing. So you're more likely to engage in less favorable activities if you do not have that. So we're always thinking about mentorship programs, career development programs. What are those things that can really help? And so all those things kind of like ladder up and ladder back down also too from community violence prevention.
Prior to meeting you actually about the Chicago Bulls, I just thought, Michael Jordan, sports, entertainment, like, jersey, like red jerseys, like that whole phenomenon. But there's this other side to corporate giving and to community giving
Yeah,
that is so important and is so available for sports teams to engage in. And
absolutely.
so tell me, throughout the NBA, is this an important sort of initiative? Some of the stuff that
Yeah.
you're talking about, yeah, throughout.
So yes, every sports team pretty much now has sort of like a community engagement or social responsibility team, and everyone takes a different approach. I think with the Chicago Bulls, the Reinsdorf family, who are the owners and of the White Sox as well. For them, it's really important for them to make sure that we're doing this work. And so, and I know like it may or may not be like that if I went to another team. Like for them, this isn't a nice side project that happens with the organization. This is part of who we are. We get so much from the city. Like the city, I mean, obviously, people here give us like their energy, their love,
Sure.
their fandom, their money. They give all of that to us, and so we have a responsibility back to them. And we have a big platform. We're a big brand. When we're having these conversations, like there's a lot of meetings every day. But a lot of times it's always sort of thinking about like, are we really doing the best that we could be doing for the people of Chicago? Are we doing like how do we make sure that anytime people like are like, hey, we got this other thing we want to do for this other cause, we're like, well, let's keep everything like let's make sure we're staying on task, we're staying like exactly where we need to be, but also thinking about we've got like this, again, this big brand. So we've got this access to a lot of really, really cool stuff. Not only do we have an arena, but we've got like a whole sports team. We've got like one of the most well-known mascots and things like that. So how are we using those opportunities every single day, to have impact? And I think, we have a lot of meetings every day. So like, today, there's a lot of follow-up meetings with people, different organizations and stuff like that. So a lot of times it's like getting to know somebody. I always like equate it to like almost like dating. You're always
Yeah.
like, hey, like people are like, I'm getting on the phone with the Bulls and they want to ask you to get married. And you're like, wait a second, like let's just hold
Yeah.
hands first and let's move it up. You know what I mean? And then we go up the scale before we start getting married. And a lot of times I'm like, I have to see if this is gonna work out because we've gotten burnt. I can't even lie. We've gotten burnt, and so we want to make sure
Sure.
when we're stuff with different groups, that it makes sense that we kind of both get each other, that we're both like aligned here. It's completely like having a relationship here. You know what I mean?
Tensions are everything in every situation. And so when you're thinking about, what is that partnership? What is the opportunity? And what is the impact? They all have to be aligned. Tell me about the future of what is 2023 looking like for you and your role and your work, and then the organization for the Chicago
Yeah.
Bulls.
So a few things. And let me just sort of also break down all the things that fall underneath our department. So we've got the straight community engagement, and the Bulls are the community that's underneath us. Then we also have alumni, so former players. Also, when we've got players and they're doing appearances in the community, that falls underneath us. We just did some really cool stuff yesterday with one of our players. And then also donations. So we give out donations. And so for 2023, let me get back on task here. For 2023, a few things. We're actually in the middle of our season right now. So
Right.
we're working this month to hopefully, we've got one of our players, Alex Caruso, who used to play for the Lakers, won a championship with them, but is with us now since last season. He's great. We're really working with him on a few of his community projects, because we're hoping we can get him like an NBA award that they have that they give out every
Yeah.
month. But like for every player, it's something different. I mean, for him, like food insecurity is something that he always wants to make sure he's giving people food. He's also like a really big avid golfer, and so we're like, a lot of these guys have like complete other interests that have nothing to do with like basketball. So he loves golf. So we're gonna have him help, take out some of the city golf teams, which like in the public schools, which never get any love. But one of our other big initiatives that we've been doing since last year, and you saw this even reflected when we played in Paris, was we're actually trying to help increase female engagement in sports as well. So for
Amazing.
myself, as you said, I'm originally from like just outside Toronto, but I came to the United States on a sports scholarship, and sports for me has given me so much. It's been it's changed my life. It changed, like I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for sports. And so I know that girls, it's a different for girls because their chances for them to be professional are a lot different, and even the pay is different. Everything about
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
different, but there's still so much you can get out of a sport, regardless if you're going to the professional level or
Absolutely.
not. But it's kind of a tough road for them. There's a lot more barriers than you would be surprised. So we've been doing a lot of work with trying to encourage more girls to do sports and stay in sports as well. Especially basketball on the basketball side. So when we were in Paris, we did a workshop with a clinic with Paris Basket 18. They're in the 18th
Wow.
arrondissement in Paris, and
How
so they
cool
did.
is that?
They,
Wow.
they, they have an all girls program, which is fantastic to get girls into sports. And we're going to do a feature very soon with one of the schools that's close by. The
Wow.
United Center here, who is a recipient of a lot of Ukrainian refugees from the war. And so they've got a basketball team, boys basketball team. They don't have enough girls for the girls basketball team, but they have one girl who just like loves basketball, so she joined the team. So we're gonna be helping her out and featuring her for a few things as well. But I think we know we have a big platform, so we're like, let's just use it for the girls as well. We don't want to necessarily leave it for the WNBA team to do.
Absolutely.
I think we could do it, and also bring light to
You're
this issue.
you're truly making the best of all opportunities that are in front of you, because of and there's a responsibility that comes with that power, that comes with that acknowledgement of who you are and your organization. There's so many things the Chicago Bulls does for community and does for engagement of people to be better, to do better, and to have better. What is your favorite part of your job?
Um, there's so many great parts of this job. I mean, this is one of the rare jobs where I have to use everything I've ever done in my whole life for this job. But sometimes there's so many things that sometimes you almost take for granted. And it's just the joy that you bring people every day. It sounds so corny, but it's absolutely true. There's
Yeah.
so much joy that you do. Like you're like a lot of times people say, "Oh, you bring people joy every day." I'm like, "Yeah, we do." In a lot of the work that we're doing, because a lot of times we're like, even just having someone come to a game. Sometimes we're like, "Hey, come to a game, come watch the warm-ups like from up close." And they're like, they couldn't believe that this would ever happen to them. So I think it's just like, I think we get access to a lot of things. And so how can we give access to other people who haven't had that opportunity as well? And that's just given me so much joy. And I think it's just what's great is like this job allows me to be creative. And I know it sounds like you have to be artistic to be creative. No, it's a different type of creativity. But it's like, how do you sort of like solve some of these issues in a way that could be really creative and really, again, just to not to overuse this word, but just to have impact again in the community.